related to depression, relationship issues, and procrastination. With me today, we have three more hosts. If they'd like to go ahead and introduce themselves right now, that'd be great. So over to Nilakshi.
Hello everyone, my name is Nilakshi. I'm one of your hosts for today and very excited for this workshop and to have all of you here. Thank you.
Okay, hi guys, I'm Shruti. I'm also one of the hosts for today and welcome everyone to our workshop. I work as a senior counselor at MindTribe, and just like Melo, I have experience working with a range of different psychological issues. But I hope that we can all learn something together today, and we have a very interactive session. Over to Pianchi.
Hi everyone, my name is Nancy Arora. I work as a senior psychologist with MindTribe for a year now, a year and a half. And I do also have an expertise in trauma and other various disorders. And I wholeheartedly welcome all of and thanking you all to join this workshop for today. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And this presentation also had Shubhangi Mukherjee. She also contributed a lot to this, but she could not be here today. But she's also one of our own psychologists here at MindTribe. So really looking forward to this workshop and interacting with you all. Now, before we begin, I just have a few rules that we need to go over. First of all, please do not record or screenshot this workshop in any form. This is the copyright property of MindTribe. You can take down notes, write down things for yourself if you'd like, but please don't record anything. Please keep your mics and cameras off during the workshop and do not unmute unless you've been asked to. So if you have anything you'd like to say, please raise your hand, and once your name has been called upon, then you can unmute and say what you'd like to. You can put any questions, any queries, doubts in the chat box. They will be addressed. We're all here to help you out and have a good discussion on this topic with all of you. And lastly, this workshop is being recorded. It's just the presentation along with the audio that's being recorded. So just wanted to inform all of you about that. All right. With that, let's get right into it. Before we get into the mind and the gut and microbiome and all of those things, I'd just like to share a little bit from you guys and your experience. So give me a thumbs up reaction if you've experienced any of these. The first is you've noticed a change in your digestion after a high stress event or some time that you've had a lot of stress. Seeing some thumbs up, great. All right, and how about give me a thumbs up if you have ever felt anxious or had butterflies in your stomachs kind of a feeling before a big event in your life. Right, yeah, see a lot of thumbs up for that. I also think this is very relatable. Shubham, I'm just checking in with everyone and seeing how, what kind of experiences we've had. Like, so this is not an informational point, so you wouldn't need to write this down, I hope. The next one is, have you ever found that eating a healthy diet helps improve your mood? Like, have you ever experienced that in your life? Yeah, see some thumbs up there. Right. Okay, thank you so much for participating and sharing that, everyone. I think based on this, we can see that we've had these experiences in our lives that tell us that our gut, our digestion, our diet, all of that has some effect on our mental health as well. And today's workshop is going to help us explore that. Yes, Sharmishta, do you have a question? Sharmishta Kundu, is there anything you'd like to add? You can unmute.
These are all the minerals.
Or Shruti Gawas? Okay, if not, let's get right into the workshop and the topics. But thank you for all that interaction, everyone. So first of all, since we're talking about the gut and the brain and everything, what is a healthy gut? And what is the gut itself, right? So the gut just refers to your entire digestive tract, all the way from your mouth till the anus. And one of the things about a healthy gut is that it has a balanced microbiome. Microbiome is something we will be discussing more in this workshop. It is a very key part of having a healthy gut and also a healthy mind. So what are some other things that tell you that you have a healthy gut? Well, first of all, you have regular bowel movements. Next, you have easy digestion with minimal bloating and minimal gas. Third is a strong immune system, and clear and healthy skin. And lastly, stable moods and mental well-being. So all of these are signs that you have a healthy gut, that your whole digestive tract and gut is functioning the way it's supposed to, and that your microbiome is also healthy and balanced. And the importance of gut health, right? So why are we talking about gut health today? How does that relate to mental health? Some of you might want to know that, right? So gut health can impact many different things, not just your digestion, but also digestion and nutrient absorption is the most basic importance of it. But there's also things like your immune system functioning, because a lot of the microbiomes, microbes in your gut help with that as well. So having a healthy gut is very important for having a healthy immune system. It's also linked to mental health, and we'll be going more into how that is soon. And it also impacts your overall health. Like your gut health is linked to a variety of conditions related to the heart or diabetes or even some types of cancer. So these are some of the overall reasons why gut health is so important in our life. But let's look a bit closer about why it's important for mental health, because that's what we're here for as psychologists and counselors. So first of all, gut health has an influence on your neurotransmitter production. And neurotransmitters, you must have heard of, like things like dopamine, serotonin. They're really important in your brain's basic functioning and for your mood and things related to stress. So the gut has an impact on that, which is why it's really important to have a healthy gut. Similarly, with hormone balance, the gut impacts that as well. And as we all know, hormones can impact our mental health too. Next is inflammation. Now, this might be something new or surprising for us, but inflammation has been linked to some mental health disorders like depression or anxiety. And your gut being healthy helps lower inflammation. So that's another way that it's connected to your mental health. And lastly, digestive disorders have also been found to be linked to mental health disorders. Like usually they're comorbid. So somebody experiencing depression might also be experiencing some digestive issues, or somebody with anxiety might be experiencing digestive difficulties, which adds to their overall stress in their life. So this is why we're looking into gut health today. And a really important part of gut health is the microbiome. And the microbiome plays a role in all of these things, as we'll find out as we go ahead in this workshop. But before that, I just inflammation is swelling, Nishtha. So swelling in different areas of your body. So it could be in your gut, could be in your brain, right? So inflammation in the gut itself is seen more is linked to disorders like depression and anxiety. I hope that answers your question. But right, moving on, since the gut microbiome is such a key part of our gut health and our mental health, I'd like to just introduce you all to the topic before we dive more into it later. So, as the name suggests, the gut microbiome is an ecosystem of microorganisms, that is, bacteria, viruses, and fungi that live in your gut. So, all the way from your mouth till your anus, there are microorganisms all over that intestine lining and everything, and they just have a symbiotic kind of relationship with us. They help us with a lot of different things, like digesting some particular type of nutrients, or even preventing harmful bacteria from hurting us. So they are a key part of our immune system in that way. And as we move forward in the workshop, my teammates will be telling you more about this, about the microbiome and how it helps us out. Right. And that's it for the introduction on the gut microbiome. But before we get into more things about the gut and the brain and how they're related, I'd just like to understand what you all know about the gut-brain axis. So if you've heard anything about it, if you know anything, if you can briefly tell me about that, it would be great. So you can put this in the chat box, or you can raise your hand and let me know as well. What do you know about the gut-brain axis? Okay, while we think about that, I'll just show the previous slide. Anyone? If you have heard about the gut-brain axis or the mind-stomach connection, you can give me a thumbs up as well. All right, we're getting some answers in the chat. So gut is considered to be the second brain. Better functioning of the gut leads to clarity of the mind, right? Right, there are pathways that connect the brain and the gut. Very true. Right, there is some sort of connection there. They have been linked, right? Right. I've seen a lot of common answers that the gut and how it affects the brain and your mental health. That's true. Yes, that's an interesting answer, that it's a small nervous system. It's very true. It is very linked to our nervous system, and as we move forward with the workshop, you'll see how that is. Any type of stress we experience will straight affect our chemical functioning. That's absolutely right. Hey, this is great. So we all have a little bit of an idea of how gut and brain might be connected and affecting each other. I'm really grateful for all of this interaction, and thank you so much for sharing all of this. Right, that is a very direct connection, right? That anything bad or toxic can enter through the food we eat and then affects the brain through circulation. True. Right. Serotonin secreted in gut, right? The gut and the microbes do impact neurotransmitter production in different ways. So we'll be looking more into that in the workshop. All right. Thank you, everyone. I'll just move on to the next part then. But I really appreciate all of this interaction and you guys telling me what you know. I think we're all on the same page about gut and mental health right now. So that's wonderful. So I'll be telling you a little bit more about the gut-brain axis and what it is. The gut-brain axis is basically a bidirectional communication network. That means the gut is communicating to the brain is communicating things to the gut. So it's a two-way communication, right? And it links this whole gastrointestinal tract, which we call the gut, to the central nervous system, particularly the brain. And as we know, central nervous system has the brain and the spinal cord, right? So this gut-brain axis is just connecting that whole gastrointestinal tract to that central nervous system. And it does that through these particular components of the nervous system, the first of which is the vagus nerve. That's something we might have heard of before. It's one of the longest cranial nerves that we have. The second thing is the enteric nervous system, or ENS, which is something that my colleagues will be telling you more about later. And same goes for neuropod cells. Neuropod cells are something similar to neurons, but they exist in our gut. So they're communicating some information about the food intake and the microbiomes and everything to the brain. And that's also something we'll be going more into as we move along with this workshop. So the first thing we'll be exploring here is the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve, as I mentioned earlier, is the longest cranial nerve that goes from your spine all the way down to your abdomen or your gut. It really facilitates that rapid communication between the brain and the gut, but it's also linked to things like your neck, your chest, your heart, and your lungs. So it's really connected to a lot of your body's basic organs, and we'll see how it affects those. Yeah. So the functions of the vagus nerve is that it basically regulates different functions of your body, like your heart rate, your immune system responses, and your inflammation. And those are the physical things, but it also affects your mood and emotion regulation, as well as your stress and anxiety regulation. So the physiological things that the vagus nerve controls, we don't have a direct control over that. Like you can't tell yourself to lower your heart rate, or you can't tell yourself to really change your digestion or like your immune system response, right? So the vagus nerve is what's automatically influencing those things. And it also plays a function in, if you've heard the fight or flight response, then the opposite of that is calming yourself down, the rest and digest kind of a mode, right? Where you're relaxed, you're calm, you're feeling good. So the vagus nerve helps regulate your mood by bringing you into that rest and digest mode of things, by slowing down the heart rate, by moderating your breathing, just bringing you back down to a more relaxed state physically. So if we learn how to stimulate the vagus nerve, as we will later on, it can help us regulates our mood and our stress and everything. And from here on, I hope it's all clear the vagus nerve part. And now I'll be handing over to Nilakshi for the enteric nervous system.
Thank you so much, Melo. Hello, everyone. So I'm going to talk about the enteric nervous system. The enteric nervous system, also referred to as the second brain, is located within the walls of the gastrointestinal tract, right? So it extends from your esophagus through the stomach, through the small intestine, large intestine, all the way to the rectum. Now, why is it called the second brain? Because of the complexity of its task. It operates independently from the CNS, that is the central nervous system, and it is capable of controlling the gut functions on its own. So it looks at a lot of different functions. There is production and regulation of neurotransmitters. So it produces and regulates different neurotransmitters such as serotonin, dopamine, acetylcholine. And these neurotransmitters then play a very crucial role in both the function of the gut and the emotional regulation. So that is how we connect it to mental health, right? It's not just gut functioning, but also how that impacts our mental health. It is also very sensitive to stress and anxiety. Stress can disrupt its functioning, and then it could lead to different syndromes like irritable bowel syndrome and other gastrointestinal disorders. So that's why we say that, every time there is stress in your life, there are stomach issues that come up for a lot of people. That's why it's very important to pay attention to those signs and connect it to what you're feeling in your physical body. Then also there is interaction with gut microbiota. That means that the ENS interacts closely with the microorganisms that live in the gastrointestinal tract. This interaction affects not only digestion, but also immune functioning, like Melo, also mentioned, inflammation and overall health. So the microbiota influences the ENS activity, which in turn affects the release of neurotransmitters in the gut, which in turn affects our mental health. So it's important that we realize that the link of the biological side and the physical health and how it then in the end impacts our mental health. So once we cover the biology of it and the physical aspect of it, I'm sure, we will build a bridge to how it is actually affecting your mental health also, and then how we can look at ways of improving both. Thank you, Melo. Next slide. All right, neuroppods. So neuroppods are cells that are specialized sensory cells that are embedded in the lining of the gastrointestinal tract. And they play a very crucial role in sensing the environment of the gut and then communicating this information to our nervous system. So they can release neurotransmitters like glutamate and serotonin in response to how the gut is. So any changes in the gut will be communicated to the nervous system, including ENS, the vagus nerve like Melo just talked about, and this will send different signals to the brain. It also helps in gut-brain communication by releasing the neurotransmitters. It facilitates a pathway for communication. This connection allows the brain to receive real-time information about the state of the gut, which influences, of course, processes like digestion, even our mood. So this is about neuroppods and how it will influence our mood. Now, again, coming back to gut microbiome and getting into a little bit more depth of it and understanding how exactly this will then lead to mood influences and mental health changes, right? So Melo did talk about gut microbiome, and I want to hear from all of you, what is your understanding of it? So I would be very happy if you could put your answers in the chat box, or if somebody wants to raise their hand and unmute themselves and tell the answer. A very simple answer. It's not anything theoretical, just whatever is your understanding of gut microbiome. Also, till then, Melo, can you show the previous slide? I think somebody wants to see that. Thank you. So Sneha says there's a variety of gut bacteria and viruses in the gut. Okay. Definitely microbiomes in the gut that support and stimulate the digestion process. Exactly. Good bacteria that help in digestion. Thank you. The ecosystem of the microorganisms found in the gut that help maintain gut health. Microflora in the gut. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you everybody for those answers. So exactly what all of you talked about. Melo, can we go on to that slide? Introductions. Yeah, next slide. Thank you. Yes, so the gut microbiome is a microscopic world within the human body. It is the microflora of the gut. It is the collection of the microorganisms that live in the digestive tracts. So this includes bacteria, viruses, fungi, and other organisms that work together to support digestion, energy harvesting, and immune defense. So gut microbiomes obviously interact with each other and the environment. They impact various aspects of our health, including appetite. So how hungry you feel, how much, everybody has a different appetite level. That is influenced by that. Metabolism of a person, energy levels, and your innate immunity, which obviously directly impacts physical health, mental health, overall well-being of an individual. Next slide, please. So let's see what is the impact on digestion. So the first point is breaking down food. What gut microbiome does is it helps break down complex carbohydrates, fibers, and proteins that the human digestive enzymes cannot digest on its own. So it plays a very big role in breaking down the food that we eat. That's why it's important to have a healthy gut microbiome environment so that we are able to digest our food better, break down the food better. Next point. Producing enzymes. Certain bacteria in the gut microbiome produce enzymes that help with digestion. So especially with specific nutrients such as lactose, these enzymes are what help with digesting these nutrients, right? So if somebody is not able to digest, let's say, lactose, it's because in their body the breaking down of this nutrient is difficult. That's why for them digesting lactose, a lot of people are lactose intolerant. It is because of this reason. Next point. Synthesizing vitamins. So vitamins such as vitamin K, vitamin B needs to be synthesized by the gut microbiome, by the bacteria in our gut, so that the body can absorb these vitamins. Unless they are synthesized, they can't be absorbed. So the gut helps us in synthesizing this, the microbiome, and then the body can absorb it and it helps us in our overall health. Okay. Then modulating immune responses. So the gut microbiota interacts with the immune system and helps to regulate the immune response and prevent any inflammation. It also produces a lot of other substances such as lactic acid and helps maintain the overall optimum pH level that should be in the intestines, which again helps in digestion and inhibits the growth of harmful bacteria. When the pH level changes or it's not what it is supposed to be, there is growth of harmful bacteria, which the body doesn't need. So gut microbiota helps maintain a pH level which is required, which is essential for only good bacteria to grow. Next slide. Okay, so now let's look at the gut microbiome and immune system. Let's look at how it directly impacts the immune system. So immune training. The gut consists of up to 80% of the body's immune system, right? So immune training is important because the gut microbiome trains the immune system to distinguish between what is a helpful bacteria and what is not. So what is a helpful and what is pathogenic types, that is, which can cause harm to the body. It helps in training the body to help distinguish between these bacteria. And the next is competition. Yes. Helpful microbiomes compete with unhelpful ones for space and nutrients. This helps Yes, sorry, I lost connection. Just 1 minute. Yes, so now beneficial gut microbiomes, they engage in natural competition with harmful bacteria and pathogens, right? So they compete for space and nutrients within the gut, limiting the opportunity for harmful bacteria to grow. When there is competition and the good bacteria are winning in our body, that means there is little space for negative or pathogenic bacteria to grow. By occupying these spaces, the beneficial bacteria prevent the pathogenic bacteria from gaining a foothold in our body. That reduces risk of infections. And some of these beneficial microbiomes also produce antimicrobial substances that again inhibit the growth of pathogenic bacteria. This competitive environment in the gut helps maintain a healthy balance, which is essential for our overall well-being and overall gut health. Next slide. Hello, next slide.
Sorry, I lost connection for a bit. Is the screen visible for everyone?
It is. It is visible for me, but somebody else is not able to view the slide. Everybody gives a thumbs up if it is visible for you. Yes, I think it is visible for most people. Okay, I think it's not visible for a few people. Hello, can you present again? Hello? Hi everyone, just give us 1 minute. I'm sure it's a network issue and Melo will be back. Just 1 minute.
Please let me know if this is visible for everyone.
It is. Thank you so much. Okay. Yes, Melo, can you bring about the text? Yes, thank you. So what are hormones? Hormones are chemical messengers that regulate various bodily functions such as mood, metabolism, appetite. So all your feel-good hormones, hormones that make you feel sleepy, hormones that make you feel stressed, all of these are hormones, right? And the gut microbiome plays such an important role in connection to these hormones. So gut microbiome influences the hormone production and regulation, which impacts various bodily functions. So let's look at the different hormones and neurotransmitters that we have. Of course, this is not an exhaustive list. This is just the ones that I have picked out and the ones that we use in daily functioning. But there are a lot more that are influenced by the gut microbiome. So let's look at serotonin first. About 90% of the body's serotonin is produced in the gut. Now, serotonin is primarily associated with mood regulation. Certain bacteria in the gut influence serotonin production by metabolizing dairy products, dietary products that are important to produce serotonin. The gut production of serotonin plays an important role in not only in the gut but also in communicating with the brain. So because of the gut, the communication with the brain influences the mood that we are in, if we have any anxiety, and the overall well-being that we are feeling. Now there's cortisol. Cortisol is, of course, I'm sure all of you know, it affects the stress response. It is referred to as the stress hormone, right? So it is also heavily impacted by the gut microbiome. Any imbalance in the gut can lead to elevated levels of cortisol. That means if I have an imbalance in my gut and that is leading to more cortisol production, I will have more anxiety, I will feel more stress. That's why it's important to regulate this. Yes, Shubham, go ahead.
गुड आफ्टरनून मैम। मैम इसलिए ही मतलब जब डिप्रेशन या एंजाइटी रिलेटेड इश्यूज होते हैं तो इसलिए सेरोटोनिन वाली दवाइयां सबसे ज्यादा दी जाती हैं।
Very true. Yes, a lot of serotonin reuptake inhibitors are what we are given when there is SSRIs, right?
Yes,
that is why those medicines are given to us. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Sertraline. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. Okay, looking at GABA. GABA is an inhibitory neurotransmitter that plays a key role in reducing, anxiety and stress and promoting relaxation. Now, certain gut bacteria are capable of producing GABA. That means that they can influence the production of GABA levels. So when the levels of GABA increase, the relaxation in the body also increase. A healthy gut microbiome produces calmness and reduces stress and anxiety. Next is glutamate. Glutamate is very important for brain functioning and neural communication. Gut microbiome helps regulate glutamate by, again, there's metabolism of dietary components that we eat. Any imbalance in the gut microbiome can lead to a dysregulation of glutamate, which will again lead to more anxiety, more depressive symptoms, and neurodegenerative diseases. Acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is very critical for your memory, for your learning, and muscle activation. What happens is when there is the vagus nerve that we studied about, it is heavily involved in acetylcholine signaling. So that also affects any cognitive functioning or any memory related task that we have, any learning related task that we have. If this signaling of acetylcholine doesn't happen in the gut properly, then that affects the cognitive functioning. Cognitive functioning is when you think of memory, when you think of questioning, reasoning, any higher order learning that you do is also impacted when there is an imbalance in the gut. And the last that we're talking about here is dopamine. I'm sure all of us have heard of dopamine. It impacts our motivation, our pleasure, motor control in the body. So gut microbiome affects dopamine levels, and it can influence the production of dopamine and affect this level indirectly through interaction with the vagus nerve and the gut-brain axis. The relationship between the gut microbiome and dopamine impacts our mood, impacts our behavior, and can also contribute to conditions like Parkinson's disease. So that's why it's very important that the gut microbiome works in a way and is healthy, and the gut system is healthy, so that all of these neurotransmitters are also not impacted negatively, because that will directly impact our mental health. Moving on to the next part. Yes, Shruti will take over from this part. Thank you, everyone.
Hi guys, it's actually not me that's going to be taking over. I think it's Pianchi.
Apologies for that.
Thank you, Shruti, for that. Okay, now, so far, a quick recap for you, all of you, that, so far we talked about how the connection between the gut health and the mental well-being is really rapidly growing in the area of, mental health community, and so far into our lifestyle. So this term basically describes the complex, communication, what is between the gastro and maybe the gut tract that we have and the central nervous system. So basically, so far, we also talked about how there is a neurotransmitter production, the gut-brain axis, which we communicate through our neural pathways, including the vagus nerve, the biochemical signals, and the immune system pathways. So this communication is extremely crucial for maintaining our overall health and homeostasis, right? Homeostasis means just to maintain a balance in our body, right? And also somewhere down the line, it also talks about so far the neurotransmitter production, immune system, stress and gut, diet and mental health, And so far, the conclusion that we have drawn is that the relationship between these two is very complex and multifaceted, while more research is needed to be done to fully understand it. But so far, what we are putting out here in the presentation, it also talks about a healthy gut that can positively influence on our mental health. And this understanding opens up some new avenues for both the preventive measures and the treatments that can be put in beforehand to as a precautionary way to deal with our is, right? Now, next slide, please. Now, the first thing that we need to talk about the neurotransmitter production. I know this topic has been covered by Nilakshi and Mello so far, but needs to talk about the research perspective. And why so? Because its relationship to mental health is growing significantly in recent years. The gut the community of microorganisms residing into our gastro tract has been shown to produce several neurotransmitters, which are chemicals that transmit signals in the brain and are very crucial for mental health. So the first one that we need to cover on is the serotonin part. Just a brief about it, that it is a neurotransmitter that plays a critical role in regulating mood, anxiety, and happiness. So, 90% of the body's serotonin is produced in the gut by cells and some bacteria and some by gut bacteria. So, research has shown that it has a huge effect and shown a connection between mood and mood disorders, right? For example, research has found that individuals with depression often have altered gut microbacteria composition, which can really influences our serotonin production. So low levels of serotonin are commonly associated with depression and anxiety disorders. So first, what we understood that there's a neurotransmitter, which is serotonin, which is really lead to mood and anxiety and happiness, and this is majorly present in our gut, and it can lead to depression and other disorders as well. The second thing is the gut microbiome and serotonin production, which also talks about that in 2015 it is stated that specific strains of gut bacteria can influence the production of the gut health, which turns out to the levels of serotonin in the brain and increases those levels, and it changes the bacterial population, which may influence the mood and behavior through serotonin pathways. So what I mean by this information is that there's a pathways into our system as well that can really affect our mental health, and the specific pathway which is the gut microbacteria and serotonin production has a huge role to play in it, right? Then the gut-brain communication, another study which found that basically a bacteria produces a lot of metabolic or maybe a lot of bacteria that can stimulate serotonin production by some certain cells. So the whole idea is that serotonin present in the gut health has a huge role to play in mental health aspect, and it has a lot of pathways which can be really triggered by if the gut health is not okay. So that pathways can also be affected through that pathways to the serotonin can also be affected by mental health if we are not okay in certain areas of our life, right? Then the second part is GABA, which is the primary inhibitor of neurotransmitter in the brain, which help us to reduce the neural and promote calmness, because some bacteria can really play that role. For instance, that research shows that GABA producing probiotics, specifically certain strains, can reduce anxiety and depression like behaviors, right? And this also suggests a potential pathway for gut micro to influence our mood and anxiety through GABA production. So ultimately, the understanding is that we need to take care of our gut health so that it can produce the pathways to produce these neurotransmitters, and that can help us to in our overall well-being, right? And these pathways are really affected by our mental health per se and can lead to potential mental health disorders, right? The third aspect is the dopamine aspect, which talks about it is associated with reward, motivation, and pleasure, right? Which, while primarily produced in the brain, but a significant amount is also, synthesized in our gut. So how it can impact us? It shows that gut bacteria may impact the dopamine levels, which turn out to influence our behavior related to motivation and reward. So for example, a study in psychopharmacology in 2015 showed that the alternating that gut microbacteria composition in the mice affected the dopamine levels in the brain, influencing the behavior to the severe level. So, for instance, the Parkinson diseases, right? Parkinson disease has also a huge role in the gut role in dopamine production, in particularly relevant to Parkinson's, right? Now, moving ahead to another slide, can you please switch the slide? The hormonal functioning. Although the last slide and previous slides, I have covered some basic neurotransmitters such as GABA, serotonin, dopamine, but it has a several other hormone and neurotransmitters present in that can help, that can affect our mental health, right? Because the mental health and as well as leading to potential disorders in us, right? Now, the second aspect of it is the hormonal fact, which talks about that what is the relationship between the hormonal functioning and mental health, which talks about that how hormones plays a crucial role in mood regulation, stress hormone, and overall psychological well-being, right? Because hormones are chemical messengers that travel through the bloodstream, right? But also the overall view is number one is cortisol, which often refers to as stress hormone. It is produced by some adrenal glands in response to stress. So it has a major role to play in our body fight and flight response. But it also involved in regulating metabolism, immune system, and circadian rhythm. So you need to understand that it has a potential. Researchers shown the effect of stress and depression, which talks about that elevated cortisol levels are commonly associated with chronic anxiety and depression. And it also shown that individual depression often have dysregulated cortisol rhythms, leading to persistently high levels. So it needs to be understood that how hormonal functioning and gut health leading to potential mental health problems and disorders. The second thing is the impact on early life stress, which also talks about the research where early life stress can lead to long-term changes in the cortisol production and can potentially lead to mental health concerns in our adulthood, right? Then the second hormone that we need to talk about is progesterone and progesterone. Of course, very another common hormone that we most talked about, which is the sex hormone, primarily involved in the regulation of reproductive functions. Now, it has also been seen that, which is PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric and a period problem, which is a severe form of premenstrual, problem, which is characterized by some emotional and physical symptoms, right? So our progesterone and progesterone levels can also be playing a crucial part in a menstrual cycle, leading to mood disturbance in women, right? Then there's a premenopause and depression relations, and there's a postpartum depression as well that leads to a lower level of these. See, the entire point of all these hormones understanding and the research is that if our gut health is not okay, the production of these hormones and the production of these neurotransmitters will get reduced, ultimately leading to the mental health conditions. That is the cycle that you need to follow in this research aspect, that a certain hormone, a certain problem in gut health leading to reduced severity, leading to reduce of these hormones and leading to reduce neurotransmitters, leading to mental health conditions like testosterone as well, because it also again plays a very primary role associated with the male reproductive functions, and it also affects the mood, energy levels in both men and women. So mood disorders in men and also some sexual drive in men has been reduced if their gut health and mental health is not fine, right? So as followed by oxytocin and thyroid hormone and insulin hormone, right? So the conclusion again here draws out that hormonal imbalances or dysregulation can contribute to a wide range of mental health disorders, leading to depression, anxiety, bipolar, and cognitive decline. Understanding these connections offers opportunity for the targeted treatments, right? That can be really helped at the early on of our life, right? Moving ahead to the next slide, please. Then the immune system. The relationship between the immune system has been rapidly expanding and highlighting the significant role that immune system responses and how our immune responds to the gut health and how inflammation displays the development and progression of various mental health conditions. So this connection is often referred as, which explores how psychological factors, the nervous system, and the immune system interact particularly. So, number one is that the role of inflammation in mental health, which is that inflammation is a very natural immune response to infection, right? But chronic inflammations can have really effects on mental health. So, for instance, it can also lead to cytokines, which are small proteins released by our immune cells, which is a crucial role in signaling inflammation and across the blood-brain barrier, affecting the brain functions and behavior. So ultimately, it leads to depression. Yes, please go ahead, DA.
What inflammation are we talking about here? What is getting inflamed?
Could you please repeat that? Which inflammation?
Like, what inflammation are we talking about here? Like, which part of the body is getting inflamed?
Okay, so we are talking about particularly the gut health inflammation, right? Please go ahead.
Okay, gut health inflammation. So you mean like because of the gas problem, like our stomach swells up and gets inflamed? Is it that or something else?
Okay, let me put you through another time understanding, which is that the relationship that we have with our immune system and mental health, which means that the connection is often coming from the nervous system, the immune system interaction, right? Now, what happens is that information can come from various parts of our body, but particularly right now we're talking about the gut one, that gut inflammation, right? But since we are talking about the inflammation in the stomach or the body, but the only two aspects we are really focusing on is our stomach and the major gut health in our, the throat that we're talking about, honestly. It could be a very predictor of the inflammation that we are, and leading to a mental health problems and disorders. Could I be able to answer you on that?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. So, right. So we're talking about that, how depression and inflammation. So let's study more on that so that it'll answer you in a better way, which is that numerous studies have found that individuals with depression often exhibit levels of pro-inflammatory cytokines, such as, there's a specific, a specific neurotransmitter, or a neuron, which is called the neurocus factor alpha, which is TNFA. And I don't want to go in very much details because it will be very confusing for you. Or maybe C-reactive protein, which is the CRP. So it also talks about that how the inflammation can consistently associated into our gut health can lead to potential developing depression, suggesting a potential causal link for a problem to be here. Right. Then there is another immune system talks about autoimmune disorders and mental health. Again, now what are the autoimmune disorders which attacks the body, our own issues, and has severe links to various mental health conditions, which is anxiety, depression, and psychosis. So which is that number one, increased risk of psychiatric disorders, maybe genetic and environmental factors could play a role in it. And also, it has been also shown that a severe condition, which is that sometimes, researchers have focused on only the role of antibodies, but also need to focus on the fact that how the immune system have its own tissues that can affect our own body and could lead to autoimmune diseases, right? Then, if you talk about another inflammation, which is about the, let me give you one more example on it, which is, one second. Could you please move into the next slide, please, Melo? Yes, inflammation and neuroinflammation. Again, yes, please go ahead, Kapil.
Ma'am, you just mentioned about C-reaction protein and you said that will be confusing if you go further. So can you just give us just brief or some names so that we can maybe read later or talk about it later with ourselves, with some experts?
Do you repeat which specific hormone you're talking about?
Just before what you said, finished last, you said talk about C-reactive protein, CRP.
Right. Absolutely.
You said that I'll go deep, so it will become confusing. So can you just name those things which you saying that it will become confusing? Yeah.
Sure. Can I copy paste the information that I have on the chat box after this explanation?
No problem, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Works for me. Okay, guys, I think so. If anybody having questions, let me take a break here so that I can ask, because the entire point of this presentation is to make you understand what is exactly how our gut health and mental health has been connected with through various researches. So anybody having any doubts so far that would help, you want to have a questions about, or you're not able to understand, or you want me to go a little slow, could you please raise up your hands or put out your query in the chat box before I don't want to proceed further.
As per the slide and the information you're providing to us, it is very clear that maybe 80 out of 100 mental problems could be related to gut health. Maybe because of some stress in childhood, or maybe later stages, or because of eating wrongly and whatever. But nobody talked about it. I mean, I've been to various therapies, and for my relatives also, my friend also. I used to take them, whosoever suffering with some issues, I used to take them to the psychiatrist and psychologist, but nobody has ever talked about gut health. So I'm just wondering if it is of such an importance and plays such a big role, then why nobody says that do this to improve your gut health or get these things tested.
To be honest, Kapil, the basic fundamentals that I'm talking about here again and again is that, even if we have any mental health issues, it means that, there's some sort of two types of there, right? Maybe a certain level of neurotransmitters levels are gone low. Right. So what is the reason behind it? Right? We take medications or therapy to increase those level of improvement in our, level of activities, or these neurotransmitters are playing. So we don't understanding that gut health as holding a lot of these neurotransmitters that get really deactivated if we don't take care of our gut health. That is the entire of this presentation. Of course, every body or part of the body plays a role. As DJ also mentioned that, what is the specific thing that we are attacking on? What we are trying to here put down, that we are just specifically talking about the gut health, that how a lot of neurotransmitters are present over here, which is so underestimated that we need to take care of it, because it is leading to low levels of production of these transmitters, leading to mental health conditions or mental health disorders as well. That is the entire point, the crux of the understanding.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right. Let me take some questions on.
It is very interesting, this presentation and the way you guys are presenting. Really thankful.
Yes, I'm so sorry, guys, because I'm not being here specifically talking about certain, words or specifications, because it's for overall. We are just here right now not to get into details of which, protein or which neurotransmitter specifically, because it is for everybody. From us, it is for you to convey a point that you need to take care of your the gut health conditions that is potentially leading to a mental health concerns, right? So let me take some few questions from the chat box as well. Shubhankar says that, okay, he's trying to, thank you, Shubhankar, for that. Anybody else that would like to ask any questions on it, or are getting confused about it and not able to gather and catch up to this information, I would like to take your concerns, because that's the entire point of this workshop. Nishta, see, we are not here to, recommend any diet, because, that's what it is. Because we are not professional in terms of dietary explanation and everything. So you could reach out to your, a nutritionist or dietitian that will help you to kind of navigate your journey, because you will understand your body well and what it is. So will be very wrong on our aspect to recommend something on the dietary ways, honestly.
Ma'am, I'm a nutritionist, so people can get in touch with me. Just saying that.
Okay, that's great. anybody would like to know and have a specific dietary issues can reach out to that. One more question I'll pick up from that. DA says that please explain again why psychology don't recommend gut-related solution. Exactly, DA. That's the entire point. That's the entire point. That even psychologies have definitions which is called physical and mental health. So both has to go hand in hand. It is not like a one-way stream that okay, you can fix your mental health and your body and your physical health is not in tune. The minute we enter and we have been taught to ask the client that if they're going to any hormonal issues, if they're going to any kind of medical history that they had, because it has a huge connection between gut health and mental health, right? So it is very, very important that psychologists need to make them psychoeducate them rather than recommending something. DA, we need to psychoeducate that could be potential reasons for you to having a mental health concerns, to be very precisely. So right, I'll take up your questions, promise, in the end of the presentation. Let me continue and complete my last slide for this. We'll take up your questions. So whosoever raise your hand, I will definitely undo that. Can IBS also be an example for the connection between? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It could be a very potential leading. It is related to anxiety, to be very precisely, and other various problems. Then what are the certain foods? Okay, we'll talk about it. Now, the last slide that I would like to talk about for today is the inflammation and neuroinflammation. Now, again, it talks about and it offers insight into how the brain's immune response can affect the mood and cognition behavior. Now, neuroinflammation refers to the inflammation of the nervous tissue and is typically associated with the activations of brain's immune cells, particularly, what you say, microglia or maybe astrocytes. So this inflammation can contribute to or various mental health disorders. So here is the overview, right? So depression increasingly viewed through the lens of neuroinflammation now. It is another interesting research with several studies suggesting that inflammatory processes within the brain contribute to the depressive disorders. For instance, there should be there's a PET scan that happens that shows that there's an increased activations of certain cells in the brains of individuals with major depressive disorder, particularly in the regions associated with the mood regulation, such as the prefrontal cortex and anterior central cortex. So this suggests that neuroinflammation could also play a role on the depression aspect and fact, right? The second aspect is the inflammation markers in the depression, which also talks about that it could be leading to tumors as well. It could be leading to, patients with depression, suggesting that the higher component of this disorder could be present because of the neuroinflammation in certain cells of the brain, right? Then the second aspect about the neuroinflammation has been also talking about how it has been related to chronic inflammation and immune activation, leading to certain part of the brain involving in fear now, such as the amygdala and hippocampus. Now, researchers also again shows it that it could be leading to schizophrenia. It could be leading to pro-inflammatory markers of like healthy controls, or maybe leading to anxiety, or maybe leading to a brain contributing to anxiety-like behaviors, right? So another point of to kind of conclude on this is that inflammation and neuroinflammation underscores their significant roles in the psychopathology of various mental conditions, including depression, schizophrenia, bipolar, and other neurodegenerative diseases. So chronic inflammation, whether originating in the brain or from the synthetic sources, can contribute to the development and progression of various symptoms through this, right? So these findings suggest that so far I have talked about targeting the fact that it could be maybe a strategy for you to understand that what would be the potential reason for you to having certain moods or anxiety or on the way around, because everyone's anxiety is not to an extreme severe level. It is categorized either mild, moderate, severe, right? So how you can control without medication part by focusing on other various aspects of it and trying to help yourself or other clients out there. And it could really, and these researchers really give you another perspective, or maybe contributing to a deeper understanding of these processes may lead to more effective and personalized interventions for yourself. So, or maybe, could be a potential reason for your mental health conditions that you're going on. So that is another lens or a skill that you look for when you're having, any issues regarding to yourself, or maybe someone is going through in your loved ones or family. So yeah, next slide, please. Over to you, Shruti.
Thank you so much for that, Pianji. And guys, I know we've been listening to a lot of research for a while now, so let's just take a little bit of a break. And just like there are ads on YouTube, we have a little bit of an ad here. Let's go over to the next slide, Melo. So, firstly, let's just understand what one-on-one counseling is. It is a personalized, confidential session between a client and a trained therapist where you gain insight into your thoughts, behaviors, and emotions, and you address specific issues such as anxiety, stress, relationship problems, etc. And you and the therapist work together in a personal and professional way to attain certain goals with the support of a counselor, right? Great. So let's go on to the next slide. Now let's understand the misconceptions and reality about one-on-one therapy. So the misconception is that therapy is only for those who are very severely sick or going through really hard mental health troubles. But counseling is for anyone who wants their best version of themselves, maybe have better relationships, have better friendships, have better academic success or career advancement. So that's something that, is the reality, and we sort of, most people around us don't really understand that. Let's go over to the next slide, Melo. Yeah, so what's great about MindTribe when you guys are thinking of one-on-one counseling is that our team consists of very experienced and skilled therapists. We also offer counseling at a range of different rates, right? They're affordable. They're starting from 500 to going up to 5,000, depending on the seniority of the counselor. We also offer the first session as being free. So you guys can, experience our counseling services without any initial costs. And we also have really affordable packages. So once you're comfortable with your therapist, investing in a budget-friendly counseling package is something that you guys can go forward with. Next slide, Malo. Yeah, there are 2 pointers here. Yes. So feel free to ask any questions that you might have about one-on-one counseling in the chat box right now, and one of our hosts will address that. And if not, right now at the end, I will be sharing some contact information that you guys can, use if you guys want to go ahead with one-on-one counseling. If not, the 4 presenters here, you can always find us on the group that was created and reach out to one of us if you guys want to go ahead with personalized counseling. Okay. Thank you so much for that, Melo. And that was our little ad break, guys. And now so far we've really focused on the biological aspect of how your intestinal health and gut health influences your mental health. But now let's look at very specifically at the 3 disorders that have been mentioned repeatedly. Let's go on to the next slide, Melo, which is depression, anxiety, and memory and learning, which is basically something that we, while using psychological jargon, called cognitive functions, right? So firstly, we all know what depression is. It's persistent sadness or low mood or not feeling interested in anything, having negative thoughts. It affects our sleep and previous slide, Malu. Yes, it affects our sleep, appetite, everything, right? So depression and gut health are increasingly being recognized as being interconnected through what we spoke about earlier, which was the gut-brain axis. So there have been a lot of studies that show that individuals with depression often have altered gut microbiome, which was also mentioned before, and preclinical research on rodents, which are mice and rats and all of those, that have demonstrated that changes in gut microbiome can reduce depressive-like behaviors, which could suggest a relationship there. And we also know that the gut produces serotonin, which is a key neurotransmitter in mood regulation, and alterations in gut health can then affect serotonin levels and contribute to the development of depression, right? This is all of the information that we have also previously discussed, so just hashing over it again. Then there's anxiety, which is excessive worry, restlessness, they're racing thoughts. Maybe you're thinking of the worst kind of outcomes of the situation. Then there are physical symptoms, your heart is racing, etc., right? So anxiety disorders, as mentioned before, has also been linked with gut health, and studies have shown that individuals with anxiety often have different gut bacteria profiles compared to those who do not experience chronic anxiety. And animal studies have showed that manipulating the gut health can influence anxiety-like behaviors, which again can suggest a relationship there. So probiotic supplements has been shown to reduce anxiety symptoms in some studies. And after this section, guys, we are moving on to the kind of things that are good for the gut, the kind of things that are not good for the gut, and how to sort of decide what to eat so that you're living a better so that your psychological environment is a little bit better. So we're going to get onto that after this little section. Then thirdly, there is memory and learning, which I said before are like cognitive functions of the brain. So chronic gut inflammation, which can be due to an imbalance in gut microbiome, can lead to increased levels of systemic inflammation. So guys, just to explain what inflammation is a little bit. So of course, it's like swelling, but your body has an inflammatory response as well. Okay, so when the inflammatory response, which is higher, it basically means that everywhere in your body is more prone to be inflamed, right? That is what systemic inflammation is. And there is also very location based inflammation as well, right? There could be inflammation in the brain, there could be inflammation in the gut, but overall there is also something that's called systemic inflammation that sort of encompasses the entire physical being, right? So gut health on the whole influences systemic inflammation. It means that it influences inflammation within the entirety of the body. Your body will have more of a response and will be more readily inflamed if the gut health is a little bit off balance, right? I just wanted to explain that a little bit. So the gut microbiome also plays a really crucial role in early development of the brain and cognitive functions. So early life imbalances in gut health, which can be caused by antibiotics, poor diet, anything, can potentially lead to issues with learning, memory, and behavior, right? So just not for us, but for children as well, gut health is something that is very, very important so that they grow and develop mentally in a very healthy way. Let's go on to the next slide, Malo. Yes, so as it's been very, superficially mentioned before, very briefly mentioned before, but let's just look at how stress can influence gut health and how that in turn can affect your mental health, right? So as we all know, stress has a huge impact on gut health, primarily through its effects on the gut-brain axis that we had spoken about earlier. And when you experience stress, whether it's acute or chronic, whether it's long-term or short-term, it triggers a range of different changes that happen within your body that can disrupt the gut function. So it can lead to a lot of different things, right? It can lead to gastrointestinal and systemic issues. And stress activates certain different mechanisms, certain different pathways leading to the release of cortisol. Okay, cortisol, as was mentioned before by Nilakshi, said that cortisol is the primary stress hormone, right? And the elevated cortisol can disrupt the gut health by altering, it can actually either speed up or slow down gut, how the gut works, how it's digesting, the speed at which it's working, which can lead to symptoms like diarrhea, constipation, etc. Then it can also increase gut permeability. So chronic stress can make the gut lining more permeable, which can mean that, it becomes easier for things to sort of cross that barrier, a condition which is often referred to as leaky gut. So this allows toxins, pathogens, undigested food particles to enter the bloodstream, triggering an immune response and then hence contributing to the systemic inflammation that we spoke about, right? So when that happens, all of these different things that, stress does to your gut can, as in mechanisms that we've spoken about before, can alter neurotransmitters, hormones, immune system, all of that, which in turn influences your mental health, right? So it can lead to various mental health issues. And also over time, your body can learn how to not respond to stress as well, right? Not respond to stress in a way that it could earlier because it has been under chronic stress for so long. And then, all that cycle just sort of becomes a little vicious loop that we get stuck in. So stress is also has a huge role to play when we're talking about gut health. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. Right. So there, as someone mentioned in the chat box earlier as well, there are certain intestinal disorders that can, influence gut health and hence, mental health. So Research increasingly shows that gut disorders can significantly impact mental health, leading to conditions like, like we mentioned, like anxiety, depression, other mood disorders, cognitive behavior, cognitive impairments. So the first one that I want to talk about here is IBS, right, which is irritable bowel syndrome. It is strongly associated with anxiety and depression. The chronic discomfort and unpredictability of the IBS symptoms can lead to significant stress, which in turn can, sort of make your mental health conditions a little bit worse. Then there is IBD, which is inflammatory bowel disease, and it encompasses chronic inflammatory conditions like Crohn's disease or anything else that sort of works on that. Pianchi also very briefly mentioned it. So the chronic nature of this condition, along with its physical symptoms, can contribute to anxiety and cognitive impairments. And that's about it. Let's go on to talk a little bit about, we've all been waiting for it. What exactly to do? So far, we've been talking about, okay, what is the mechanism? What is the logic behind it? What's the biology behind it? And how is everything related, right? But we all want to focus on what is it that we can proactively do. So that's what we're going to focus on the next session. Melo, can we go over to that? Yes. Next slide. So nutritional psychology. So as repeatedly mentioned earlier, in today's world, we are increasingly recognizing that the food we eat, our lifestyles, and even how we think affect not only our physical health, but also our mental health. And nutritional psychology is a growing area of research where the aim is to better understand the relationship between nutrients, dietary intakes, patterns, and our mental health. So this sort of equips us with better understanding of how what to eat, and eating patterns can affect brain functions both directly and indirectly. And the question as to why food is not a huge consideration in psychiatric work right now and psychological work right now is that because this is a growing field, right? There is ongoing research happening. There are finding new things every time a new research happens, right? And we come from a place where we're learning about gut health and how it sort of affects the mental health at this point. So that is why it's not in popular use yet, but there is a lot of promising research, and hopefully in a few years it becomes a huge part of what mental health is. Okay. Let's go over to the next slide. Now let's talk a little bit about what we eat affects our mental health. Let's go over. Yeah, there is nutrients and brain function. Just 1 second, guys. Yeah. So there is nutrients and brain function, which the brain requires a variety of nutrients that we'll talk about a little bit more in detail later, which includes fatty acids, antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals to work properly. And a study published in the Lancet Psychiatry found that diets rich in certain nutrients that we'll be mentioning later on, such as, and also diets such as the Mediterranean diet are associated with lower rates of depression and anxiety. So balancing, Alicia, not that many were on the last section of our presentation. So balancing nutrition fuels cognitive function, mood regulation, and highlighting the importance of just having a balanced diet. Then the second point is the gut-brain axis. We've spoken about this before. It is the bidirectional communication between your gut and your brain. So research in Nature Reviews Neuroscience indicates that gut microbiome composition can affect neurotransmitter production, impacting mental health. So a healthy gut supports a healthy mind here as well. Then the next point, yes, impact on mental health. Poor dietary choices such as high intake of processed foods are linked to an increased risk of mental health disorders. And a study in the Journal of Public Health Nutrition found that diets high in sugar and processed foods are associated with higher risks of depression, right? Let's go over to the next slide. Now let's just take a look at what are the things that actively influence the gut microbiome. So there is diet, which is the primary modulator to the gut microbiome. High fiber diets promote diversity, while diets high in processed foods and sugar can reduce it. Then consuming a diet rich in fiber, fruits and vegetables supports a healthy and diverse gut microbiome. Then like on the screen, there are antibiotics which can drastically alter the gut microbiome by killing harmful and beneficial bacteria. Then there is lifestyle, which means that if you have a sedentary lifestyle and high stress levels, it can lead to negative impact on the gut microbiome and gut health in general. Then poor sleep quality and poor sleep quality and irregular sleep patterns can disrupt the gut microbiome, again, which can lead to imbalances. Then next slide, Melo. We have a few pointers there as well. Yes, the first one being the environment. So exposure to diverse environment, especially during early life, can enhance gut microbiome diversity, while while overly sanitized environments may limit it. So environmental exposure becomes very, very important. Then there are genetics, which can influence the composition of the gut microbiome. And although it is less significant compared to diet and lifestyle, but it's still important. Then medications. So beyond antibiotics, there are other medications that are proton pump inhibitors, which are PPIs, and NSAIDs can disrupt the gut microbiome, and awareness of the impact of certain medicines while consuming them also becomes very important. And then lastly, we all know that our gut health is influenced by age. So because the gut microbiome changes with age, it generally becomes less diverse in older adults, which can impact mental health and gut health and then mental health. Yeah, let's go over to the next slide. So finally, guys, let's talk about the kind of foods that can support gut health, right? So we'll take questions at the end because we're running a little bit over time. So after this section is done, guys, we'll definitely take up everyone's questions, okay? So the next slide, Melo. Yes, the first thing to consider when you're thinking of a healthy gut is probiotics. Probiotics are the live beneficial bacteria that support gut health by balancing gut microbiome. Then the kind of Indian foods that you guys can incorporate is dahi, which is curd that we make here, which is rich in lactobacillus and improve digestion, boost immunity. Then there is idlis and dosas, because those are also fermented. Then probiotics sort of enhance gut microbial balance, like mentioned earlier. And when you have a better gut functioning, you have better mental health functionings, right? So it can reduce symptoms of anxiety, depression, and improve gut-brain communication. Then up next, we have fiber. And fiber is a dietary fiber, actually, is a plant-based nutrition that helps regulate digestion and feed the beneficial gut bacteria. So probiotics sort of increase the number of bacteria, the good bacteria that we have, and fiber is sort of what feeds it, right? So in the Indian food diet, there are whole grains, which are ragi, jawar, bajra, vegetables such as carrots, spinach. Melo, they're supposed to show up on the screen as well. Yes. So carrots, spinach, which are high in fiber, and these vegetables support digestive health. And similar to probiotics, these improve gut health, and then hence they're able to influence your mental health as well. Then we have prebiotics. Yes, so prebiotics and probiotics are a little bit different. Prebiotics are non-digestible fibers that feed the beneficial bacteria in the gut. And in the Indian food system, we have onions and garlic, which are rich in inulin, which is a really, really powerful prebiotic. Then we have bananas, and which can act as a prebiotic as well. And similar to all of the other ones, they influence gut health, and then in turn influence mental health in a very positive way. And lastly, we have omega-3 fatty acids, which are essential fats that play a crucial role in reducing inflammation and supporting mental health and brain health. So in the Indian food system, we have flax seeds, which is alsi, and it is very, very rich in omega-3 fatty acids. Then we have walnuts, which is something that we call akhrot in Hindi, and that is also very, very important. It has a huge amount of omega-3 fatty acids in it. And it can, like mentioned earlier, it can influence gut inflammation and support the integrity of the gut lining, right? Remember earlier we'd spoken about that sometimes the gut lining can become really, really thin, that it can let things pass. So omega-3 fatty acids is something that, fights against that. And then, of course, it helps in better gut health and then, better mental health as everything else. Then let's go over to the next slide. Let's talk a little bit about certain diets. Okay. Next slide, Melo. Firstly, there is the Mediterranean diet, like it was mentioned before. So it emphasizes whole grains, fruits, vegetables, and healthy fats. It is recognized for its heart, gut, and brain health benefits. So in the Indian food systems, we need to do, we can incorporate it, but we need to find some alternatives. So alternatives for olive oil could be mustard oil, groundnut oil. We can use whole grains such as barley, wheat. We can incorporate spinach and methi, which is called fenugreek. And we can incorporate a lot of nuts, almonds, walnuts, whatever sort of, seems nice to you. And this is a diet that is high in fiber from whole grains and vegetables and can promote gut diversity and reduce inflammation. And a study in the BMC medicine found that the Mediterranean diet can reduce depression risk by up to 30% due to its high level of antioxidants and omega-3 fatty acids. Then we have, let's talk a little bit more about fermented foods. I think somebody had asked a question also about pickles, right? So yeah, they do come under fermented foods. And I don't know if you guys know, but the Asian diet, right? Especially the Southeast Asian diet is very, very high in fermented foods and is considered very healthy for, the human gut. So fermented foods are rich in probiotics that improve the gut microbial diversity, which can support digestion and in turn brain health. So we can incorporate things like dahi, which is loaded with beneficial bacteria for the gut. We can have achar, right, which is, fermented, which is one of the major fermented foods that we in India eat. Then fermented batter foods, which are idlis and dosas, like mentioned earlier. Then there is a drink that's called kanji, which is a traditional fermented drink made with black carrots or beets. It is not something that is very popular all over the subcontinent, but there are parts of the country that do drink it and they're considered to be very, very healthy. So fermented foods replenish good bacteria that probably because of certain factors we've lost and promote digestion and reduce the IBS symptoms as well. And research has shown that fermented foods can reduce anxiety and depressive symptoms by enhancing gut-brain communication. Then we have low inflammatory foods, right? We have things that sort of increase inflammation in the body, and then we have foods that we're going to be talking here that reduce that inflammation. So low inflammatory diets reduce systemic inflammation, like mentioned earlier, supporting both physical and mental health. So there is, in addition to the things that are mentioned on the screen, we have turmeric, which is haldi, we have adrak, which is ginger, then spinach, incorporating berries, blueberries, strawberries, everything, right? These are things that help your body realize that it does not have to be, that the inflammatory response does not have to be so high, and helps the body regulate it a little bit. And that can influence neuroinflammation as well as inflammation in the gut. Okay. Those are the few, diets that we're going to be talking about. But one thing, let's go to the next slide, Melo. One thing that we've sort of, really not considered all of that much is hydration, right? A huge part of gut health is how much water we drink, and that our body is satiated with that amount of water or not, right? Nothing in our body can work well if we're not drinking enough water. So proper hydration is essential for maintaining digestion, nutrient absorption, and mental clarity. So coconut water, for example, right, rich in electrolytes and supports hydration in an amazing way. Then there is buttermilk, which is basically charge and hydrates while also providing, probiotics from the curd that it's made from. Then there are herbal teas. Melo, the pointers will keep coming. Then there are herbal teas like tulsi and ginger tea, then water fruit, waters which are, sort of infused with fruit like cucumber, watermelon, all of that. And these things are very essential for digestion and of course nutrient absorption as well. Your body does not absorb all of that you're eating all that well if it's not properly hydrated. So hydration is a huge part of this, guys. Now let's go on to the next slide. Right, so like mentioned before, stress is a huge part of gut health. But before we go over to stress reduction and what, how we can go about it, we can take up questions now. So Alishba, you've had your hand raised for a while now. Do you want to go ahead with your question?
Yeah. Hi, actually, I'm a second year undergraduate student, and I went through a surgery of gallbladder surgery, So I have this question that I'm a little bit curious about gut health. So I'd like to ask, after I went through a gallbladder removal surgery, I'm concerned that my strong belief in potential digestive issues might affect both my digestion and mental health. Is it possible for such belief to have an impact?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, we've spoken about the gut-brain axis a lot, right? We've repeatedly mentioned that. So what that means is that anything that happens in your gut affects your brain, and anything that happens in your brain sort of affects your gut as well, right? That is why when you're very anxious, you feel it in your gut. When you're very excited, you feel it in your gut, right? So such a belief, when held on for a really long time and when really held on to very strongly, can affect your gut health over time. It's not something that is going to happen overnight. It's not something that is probably going to happen even in 20-25 days, right? But over time, there is a lot of research that shows that how you believe that your body is going to be working, your body actually starts going along to that, right? So yeah, I hope that was able to answer your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. So Shubham, any questions from you?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, is drinking coffee good for physical and mental health?
Okay, so coffee is something that is a little bit controversial, right? Coffee in the short run can improve your cognitive functions, right? For example, it can improve how you're making decisions, it can improve how analytical you are and all of that. But coffee on an empty stomach is not good for your gut health. Okay, and too much coffee, if you're having like maybe anything more than 2 cups of coffee a day, that affects your heart health as well, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So,
मैम क्योंकि कॉफी ऐसा कॉफी के लिए ये कहते हैं हर दिन आर्टिकल आते रहते हैं कि कॉफी अगर ज्यादा पिएंगे आप तो जैसे नींद आनी बंद हो जाती है मैम, इंसोम्निया हो जाता है या किडनी रिलेटेड प्रॉब्लम हो जाती हैं, जैसे जिन्हें होती हैं ये प्रॉब्लम्स उनको तो और मना ही करते हैं कि आप कॉफी नहीं पीजिए ज्यादा.
Right. So coffee does have an influence like that, but very short-term benefits are there for your cognitive, how you're thinking and how your brain is working. Short-term benefits are there, but you have to sort of, make sure that you stay within range, right? It's all about balance. You don't really have to eliminate coffee altogether, but have to make sure that you don't drink too much of it.
Yes, ma'am.
And
मतलब कुछ अच्छे इफेक्ट भी होते हैं इसके, ये डिसीजन सही अच्छा डिसीजन लेने में भी हेल्प करती है.
Right. It can improve the way that your frontal lobe is working. It can improve the way that the part of your brain जो decisions बनाता है, वो कितने अच्छे से चीजों को समझ पा रहा है, right? ये थोड़े देर के लिए it can improve that, right? Yes, that's why people study better when they drink coffee, right? And to take another question from the chat box, is tea again controversial? See, tea has less of caffeine, right, than coffee. So it can have the same effects, but on cognitive function, but it has the same effects on gut health. You shouldn't be having tea on an empty stomach, especially in the morning, and to not have too much of it, right? So I hope that was able to answer your question. Shubham, would you mind muting yourself if your question is done?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Kapil, we can take another question from you, and that will be our last question for this part, guys. All of the other questions we can address at the end. Yes, please go ahead.
So, ma'am, you mentioned in one of the slide, medicine in diet might also affects gut health. So I had tonsils from the childhood, and used to get very frequent inflammation in my throat because of tonsils. and my father used to take me to a nearby doctor who used to give me antibiotics, and which were not even branded antibiotic. It used to be, bundled there in packets, and he just take out and give white, blue colored local medicines, I would say. So, and I had those medicines constantly, almost from 5 years of age to 20 years of age, or 15 years of age. So, would that have is affected by this gut health a lot?
Absolutely. Antibiotics have the most research behind them to tell them that they can not just disrupt gut microbiome, but they can go ahead and kill a lot of the healthy bacteria that there is, right? So maybe at this point you have to focus a lot on replenishing that good bacteria. And like I said, right, curd that we have is something that is a great source of that.
Okay.
But of course, if it's too off balance, you might also need to employ other methods. But yes, medication for a long time does disrupt your gut health.
All right. My second question is, can I have a second question, ma'am?
Sure, go ahead. As long as it's a small question, we can address.
Yeah, one question. As you said that food effects are gut health and brain functioning. So people say जो हम खाते हैं वही हम सोचते हैं. So like a lot of people say don't eat non-veg because you become more aggressive and anger issues and all that. So is it true, or it is just that food is affecting our immune system or maybe hormonal balance, and that is affecting our stress, anxiety, or depression, or it is affecting our thoughts also, that we are becoming angry? Or yes, that is the question.
Right. So not directly. I don't think I agree with the fact that if you eat meat, then that makes you more aggressive. What can happen is that if you're eating foods that are difficult for your digestive system to tackle, right? And if your digestive system is not able to digest that properly, it can lead to a lot of different physical discomfort in the moment, right? But long-term effects can also happen in a way that your gut becomes a little bit more unhealthy, right? And then when your gut becomes a little bit more unhealthy, it does make it difficult for you to sort of regulate yourself in your body, in your brain as well, right? It can lead to anxiety, it can lead to depressive symptoms, it can also lead to other mood, dysregulations, but no clear-cut, connection right there that if you eat meat that you're only going to be aggressive, right? It could also possibly disrupt your gut health, and then maybe you get a little bit sad, right? So that connection definitely is there, but I don't agree with the statement that you mentioned. I hope that made sense.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Am I allowed to share my contact for any nutrition queries or not?
You can go ahead and do that in the chat box. If somebody wants to reach out to you, they can. Okay, guys. Tanushri, we'll take your question at the end, right? And right now, let's just very briefly talk about the stress relaxation techniques. So, stress relaxation techniques, just a couple, would you mind muting yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. So, stress relaxation techniques, as mentioned before, stress is a huge part of how our gut sort of is feeling, if it's feeling healthy or not. And if it's not feeling healthy, stress relaxation techniques really do come in handy. So, let's go over to the next slide. Right. So firstly, there is mindfulness meditation. Mindfulness is about being in the present. It's not about thinking what has happened. It's not about thinking what can happen. It is just about being in the present, moment that you're in. So focus on the present through breathing exercises. You could just sit somewhere and deep breathe. And that is something that can help you be a little bit more mindful. This is something that helps with psychological resilience and stress on the whole. So yeah, let's go over Mello. Yes, it can reduce stress, anxiety, and improve gut health. Then up next, we have yoga and physical exercise. We all know how working out is something that sort of helps with our stress. So yoga, walking, jogging, or any other preferable physical activity, it can enhance mood, reduce stress, and support gut health through improved digestion. Then let's go over to the next slide and talk about deep breathing exercises, right? Deep breathing exercises could be box breathing when you're inhaling, holding, exhaling, and holding for 4 seconds each. Then there is diaphragmatic breathing, which is really deep belly breathing, wherein you feel like the air is going into your stomach, and your stomach is the part of your torso that expands instead of your chest. That is something that activates the vagus nerve, right? That was mentioned earlier, and can help you feel a little bit more calmer and a little bit less stressed. And if you're not as stressed, there's less cortisol, then your digestive system has less cortisol to deal with, and it can be a little bit more healthy. So it lowers stress levels and promote a healthy gut-brain axis. Then up next we have progressive muscle relaxation. It is a way of getting in touch with your body in the present moment a little bit more. So progressively, starting from maybe your toes, you tense and relax different muscle groups in the body. Maybe you tense your calves first, then maybe you tense your thigh muscles then, and then you progressively just keep going onwards from there. It helps you get in touch with your body and helps relax a lot of tension that your body might be holding. It relieves physical tension, reduces stress, and it benefits the gut health overall. Let's go over.
Can you show the previous slide again, just for a sec, previous to previous?
We can do all of that at the end, Kapil, because we're running a little bit over time, right? So just so not everybody is held back, we'll do that at the end. Great. So other things that can help with stress reduction is engaging in hobbies, and sleep, like mentioned before, right? Sleep is something that affects your gut health a lot. Then let's go over. I think up next we have 2 case studies, and we're going to go over them very briefly, right? And we can see how sort of dietary changes and stress reduction were implemented in different cases, right? So our first patient is a 35-year-old male, and he has a severe anxiety leading to IBS, and he has frequent stomach pains, bloating, diarrhea, intense worry about work and family. Let's go over. His present diet is high of processed foods, low fiber, irregular meals, and from that we can tell that his gut health is probably poor and significant IBS symptoms. He's mentally feeling very, very anxious, and which is impacting his daily life and gut health. Then the dietary changes that were recommended to him were increasing fiber intake with fruits and vegetables, then including probiotics like dahi and charge. Then we have reduction in processed food intake and incorporating whole grains like millets, oats, wheat, barley, everything else. And these are the dietary changes that were recommended to him. And then up next, let's look at what were the stress reduction techniques that were recommended. So mindfulness meditation every day for 10 minutes. That is something that we've spoken about before. And engaging in regular physical exercise, which could include anything from walks to yoga sessions to even gym sessions, right? Anything like that. Let's look at another case then. He was also told to practice deep breathing twice a day, which is something that is very, very helpful and something that I do myself as well. So let's look at the next case, Melu. Yes, so this is a 28-year-old female. She's experiencing symptoms of depression, and which is affecting her eating habits and digestion, right? So low energy, poor appetite, feeling constipated, and she has feelings of hopelessness as well, which is very characteristic of depression, because of which she might be skipping meals, has low nutrient intake, and preferences for comfort foods, right? We all know what comfort foods are, like sugars, fat, fried food, all of that. And because of that, her gut health is not that great, and she has persistent depressive symptoms impacting her daily functioning. Now let's look at what were the dietary changes that were recommended to her, right? Including introducing a balanced diet, which is rich in fiber, whole grains, legumes, vegetables. Legumes are basically, dals and chanas and all of that. And let's see. She was also told to include fermented foods like idli, dosa, and pickle, as well as dahi. You guys can tell I love dahi. But what else was recommended, Malu? Okay, adding omega-3 fatty acids and sources of that like ulseas, which is flax seeds, and walnuts. Now let's look at the stress reduction that was recommended to her. Right. So practicing progressive muscle relaxation, which is, tensing up and then relaxing different muscle groups progressively in the body, then engaging in a regular sleep routine with 8 hours of sleep, which we know is very, very important for gut health and mental health. And lastly, is there another pointer here? Starting hobbies like gardening and painting to reduce stress, because these activities can be very cathartic and in itself can help you be a little bit more mindful when you're doing them. Right, I think that's about it. Let's go on to the next slide. Right, so let's talk about MindTribe's counseling offers. Can you just present the text, Melo? Right. So you guys all know our motto: we empower minds and transform lives. We provide counseling services at a rate of 1,200 for some people, and some people a little bit higher. When you guys visit our website, you guys can see the different price ranges there. And to further enhance affordability, we have diverse packages options that cater to a whole range of needs and preferences. And we do offer one complimentary free session in the beginning, so you guys can just reach out to us. And let's go over to the next slide. Right, so just everything that we've spoken about before in the ad as well. We have affordable counseling. We also have free group therapies, guys, that happen for 12 weeks, and you guys can sort of reach out to our community on WhatsApp to get some information about that. We also have very rich mental health resources, and we have a huge YouTube channel as well, and we have a presence on Instagram as well, so you guys can reach out to us there. Then now we have a website, you guys can reach out to us there. Otherwise, we have a number and email on the screen. So yeah, that's about it for our workshop. Thank you guys so much for being here. I know it was really long. I know it was very, very technical, but we felt like we had to explain a lot of the technicalities here, because until and unless you understand every aspect of what is happening inside your body, right, it is very difficult for you to stick to a plan. For example, if I don't know why I'm not eating yummy food, I'm not going to stick to it, right? That is why we're really focused on research, and that is why we're really focused on all of this biological information, which I understand can be a little bit difficult to, pay attention to for so long. But very, very grateful that, to those who stuck to the end with us. And yeah, yes, Tanushree, now we can take questions.
Yes, hello, ma'am. Thank you for taking my question. I just had a very general question, but I was just curious to know from your side. So this is a general thing which we all experience, right? When we have a very, a fulfilling, heavy meal, we feel very sleepy after that. It's a general thing which we all experience. So I was just curious to know, is it something related to, that our brain feels extremely relaxed after a good meal? Or is it just that we feel lazy because we feel so full? So how is it, is there any link or any technical thing between the gut brain and the actual brain? So I just wanted to know that.
Sure. So right after you eat,